first, we'll watch part of the clip with subtitles.
Oh, this place is the best. It's got beer, games, prizes, and you can never tell what time it is.
You sold a gun to a murderer so you could play video games?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you spend all day shuffling words around, you can make anything sound bad, Morty. Here, check this out.
Roy, what's wrong?
I had a nightmare. I was with an old man. He put a helmet on me.
It's just a fever. Get some sleep. I don't want you missing school on Monday.
I want you kids to look around you today and think about your future. Now is the time in your life when anything is possible.
Spiraling perfectly, it's going to be caught by Roy Parsons. Roy Parsons is at the 20. Now he's at the 10. Nothing can stop Roy the Rocket. Touchdown!
I just think it's time to get realistic. Have you talked to my father about the carpet store? Roy?
Had we caught it sooner... Well, hindsight is 20/20, Roy. What's important is that we move quickly.
I'm not ready to die.
You're not going to.
Yeah! Hey, thanks for the carpet, Roy.
Hey, Roy, you pull those Persian off-white shags for the clearance sale?
Whoa. Shit! Oh, what the hell? Whoa, where am I?
Now we'll break down the video and learn key vocabulary.
Oh, this place is the best. It's got beer, games, prizes, and you can never tell what time it is.
Can tell, in this context, actually means to know or understand something. For example, I can tell you're hungry because you're irritated. So I know you're hungry because you're in a bad mood. And never tell means not being able to know or recognize something. For instance, I can never tell why my dog is barking. In other words, I don't know or don't understand why my dog is barking. Here, Rick is saying you can never tell what time it is because there are no windows or clocks, so you just get lost in the video games and spend hours playing them.
You can never tell what time it is.
You sold a gun to a murderer so you could play video games?
Sold is the past tense of sell, which means to give something to someone in exchange for money or another item. Like, we sold our house. And murderer is a person who intentionally kills another person. So when Morty says, you sold a gun to a murderer so you could play video games, he is expressing disbelief and disapproval that Rick is putting his own fun above the harm that might come from selling the gun to a murderer. The arcade in this scene is inspired by real arcades that actually exist in the US, like Dave & Buster's.
You sold a gun to a murderer so you could play video games?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you spend all day shuffling words around, you can make anything sound bad, Morty. Here, check this out.
Shuffling means to mix or change the order of things, like shuffling playing cards. The phrase shuffling words around gives us the image of someone physically moving words as if they were cards to create a different sentence or statement. So what Rick means here is that if you mix words around in a sentence, you can come up with different meanings, positive or negative. Here, he's acting like Morty has mixed up what really happened to make it sound like Rick did something bad, but he actually did do something bad. Here, check this out, is a casual way of asking someone to look at or pay attention to something they have created or found interesting. For instance, if you see an awesome painting, you might tell someone, check this out. You can also say, take a look at this. In this scene, Rick is trying to change the subject or distract Morty with the video game so he doesn't have to talk about him selling the gun to a murderer.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you spend all day shuffling words around, you can make anything sound bad, Morty. Here, check this out.
Roy, what's wrong?
I had a nightmare. I was with an old man. He put a helmet on me.
It's just a fever.
So now, Morty put on the helmet and he's playing a virtual reality video game, also known as VR. In this game, he's living a second life as someone named Roy, and for him, it feels real, but it's just a video game. The word nightmare refers to a bad or scary dream that someone might have while sleeping. For instance, if you have a dream about a bear chasing you, that's a nightmare. A helmet is a protective covering worn on the head, often used in sports or other activities to prevent injuries. For instance, if you ride a bike, make sure to put on a helmet. So here, Roy thought it was a helmet that Rick put on him, but it was actually the VR. He thought that Rick and Morty in the arcade was a dream he had. Now let's see what else Morty does in this video game life as Roy.
Roy, what's wrong?
I had a nightmare. I was with an old man. He put a helmet on me.
It's just a fever. Get some sleep. I don't want you missing school on Monday.
Fever is a high body temperature that often comes with an illness. You would say it's just to comfort someone who might be worried about something. In this case, it's being sick. It's a way to let them know that something isn't particularly serious. For instance, it's just $5, so let's buy it. Missing typically means not able to be found because it's not in its expected place. But in this context, it means when a person is absent from a place. For instance, have you seen my dog? She's missing. In this clip, Roy's mom doesn't want him to be absent from school, and his fever or sickness isn't bad enough to keep him from going.
It's just a fever. Get some sleep. I don't want you missing school on Monday.
I want you kids to look around you today and think about your future. Now is the time in your life when anything is possible.
When someone tells you to think about your future, they usually want you to consider what could happen from your actions and decisions, meaning the things you do now could affect your life in the future. Think about is a way to ask someone to reflect about a certain topic. Anything is possible is an encouraging phrase that means you should never limit yourself because there are no boundaries to what you can achieve. This is a very positive and motivating statement, often used to inspire people to chase their dreams and not be held back by doubts or fears. A similar expression is nothing is impossible, similar to how it's not impossible to learn English with YouTube when you don't have a lot of time. And if you're just relying on YouTube or Netflix subtitles, it's easy to get lost. When YouTube's automatic subtitles say, "at the moment in your lives," but the teacher actually says, "now is the time in your life," which is totally different. This is exactly why I recommend my students FluentU, an app that teaches you English through authentic videos with accurate and interactive subtitles. FluentU gives you context-specific definitions, never literal translations.
I'm gonna wear this all the time. I love this shirt!
So if we hover over the phrase, we see one context-specific definition for this phrase and not 3 separate definitions, since that wouldn't really make sense here. If we click on it, we also get example sentences and real-world video examples that demonstrate how the vocabulary is actually used.
You need to give me a smaller picture and I'll have it all the time.
FluentU offers thousands of videos like movie scenes, TED Talks, and music videos, as well as personalized quizzes and speaking questions to reinforce your learning. You can try it all for free by signing up for a 2-week trial using the link in the description below. Plus, FluentU is currently having a sale, so now is a great time to check it out.
I want you kids to look around you today and think about your future. Now is the time in your life when anything is possible.
Spiraling perfectly, it's going to be caught by Roy Parsons. Roy Parsons is at the 20, now he's at the 10.
Now in this scene, we have gone into Roy's future and he is a big American football star. Don't forget that this is just Morty playing as the character Roy. Spiral means winding in a continuous curve, so spiraling perfectly refers to the football being thrown in a perfect spiral, which is the ideal way to throw a football for accuracy and distance. The numbers 20 and 10 indicate the yard lines on the football field, telling us how close Roy is to scoring. A yard is a unit of measurement that is equal to 0.91 meters. In America, we don't use the metric system. We use yards, miles, and feet for units of distance. So in this context, Roy is making a great play and getting closer to scoring points for his team. Sports terms and phrases are used so often in English, so if you want to learn more, check out this video of Ted Lasso.
Spiraling perfectly, it's going to be caught by Roy Parsons. Roy Parsons is at the 20, now he's at the 10. Nothing can stop Roy the Rocket. Touchdown!
I just think it's time to get realistic. Have you talked to my father about the carpet store? Roy?
Touchdown is a term used in American football when a player scores points by carrying the ball across the opponent's goal line or catching it there. The equivalent would be a goal in soccer. Now we jump further into Roy's future. He's done playing football and is married and has a kid. His wife wants him to take a job at the carpet store since he's not getting paid to play football anymore. This is why she says, "I just think it's time to get realistic," meaning that she believes it's important to start being honest about the situation, even if it's tough to accept. Another example using realistic is, let's be realistic about what house we can afford, meaning we need to make sure we're looking at houses we have enough money to buy. The opposite of realistic is unrealistic. For instance, it's unrealistic to think we can buy this house when we don't have that much money. So even though Roy wishes he was still playing football, he needs to get another job to start making money for his family.
Nothing can stop Roy the Rocket. Touchdown!
I just think it's time to get realistic. Have you talked to my father about the carpet store? Roy?
Had we caught it sooner... Well, hindsight is 20/20, Roy. What's important is that we move quickly.
Sooner means after a short time. A synonym would be earlier. For instance, the sooner we buy the house, the better. Hindsight refers to looking back at past events and understanding them better now than when they actually happened. For instance, in hindsight, those bangs didn't look good on me, meaning looking back on it, I shouldn't have cut my hair with bangs. 20/20 is a term used in vision tests to describe perfect vision. There are also other terms associated with vision like nearsighted, which means you can't see things clearly unless they're close to your eyes, and farsighted, which is the opposite. You can't see things clearly unless they're far from your eyes. So altogether, the phrase hindsight is 20/20 is a common expression in English, which means that it's easy to see what we should have done after the events have already happened. In other words, it's easy to have perfect vision 20/20 when looking back at the past. Lastly, move quickly means to act fast or take immediate action. For instance, let's move quickly and get out of this dark room. We can also use hurry. So in this scene, Roy was diagnosed with cancer and the doctor is telling him they have to act fast on treating his cancer if he wants to live.
Had we caught it sooner... Well, hindsight is 20/20, Roy. What's important is that we move quickly.
I'm not ready to die.
You're not going to.
Yeah! Yeah! Hey, thanks for the carpet, Roy.
Hey, Roy, you pull those Persian off-white shags for the clearance sale?
Shags are a type of rug with a deep fluffy pile, making them super soft and cozy to walk or sit on. They're called shag because of the shaggy, messy appearance of the fibers. These types of rugs were super popular in the 1970s. Rugs are smaller than the size of the room and can be moved. They're not attached to the floor, while carpets are fitted to the room and attached to the floor, so they cannot move. Sale items are items that have a limited time, offering a lower price that can end at any time. And clearance items are items with a lower price that are final sale and cannot be returned. Usually, a clearance sale is when a store wants to get rid of items quickly to make room for new items. It's a great opportunity for you to get great deals on items you want. A popular day for clearance sales is Black Friday, or the day after Thanksgiving in the US. It's one of the best days of the year to get items on sale and when lots of people choose to do Christmas shopping. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure to give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming videos like Learning English with That 70s Show.
Hey, Roy, you pull those Persian off-white shags for the clearance sale?
Whoa. Shit! Oh, what the hell? Whoa, where am I?
55 years. Not bad, Morty. You kind of wasted your 30s, though, with that whole bird-watching phase.
So here, Morty dies in the video game as Roy, so he gets a game over and comes back to his real life. Kinda is a casual and informal way of saying kind of, or somewhat, which means to some extent. For instance, I kinda like pizza, meaning I like pizza a little bit, not too much. Or, I kinda think you should study more. Wasted means not using something to its full potential or not using it in a valuable way. For instance, I didn't eat all my food, so it's wasted. Be careful because wasted can also describe someone that's drunk in slang. For example, I drank so many beers and now I'm wasted, or I'm drunk. In this scene, it refers to Morty not using his time well during his 30s as Roy in the video game. The 30s means the decade of someone's life when they are between the ages of 30 and 39. It's a common way to describe parts of your life. Like, in my 20s, I loved to travel. You can also use this when you don't want to be specific about your current age. For instance, if someone asks you how old you are, instead of saying 25, you can say, I'm in my 20s. Phase is a temporary interest or obsession, rather than a long-term commitment. For instance, I went through a phase where I loved running. It means there was a small time in my life I ran a lot, but I don't anymore. So, bird-watching phase is a time in your life where you are very interested in watching birds. Lots of people go through phases in life like a skateboarding phase or a yo-yo phase, but usually they eventually grow out of them with time. So in this scene, Rick is looking at what Morty did in the video game as Roy and saying he spent too much time bird-watching in his 30s and he should have spent more time doing other things.
What the hell? Whoa, where am I?
55 years. Not bad, Morty. You kind of wasted your 30s, though, with that whole bird-watching phase.
Where's my wife?
Morty, you were just playing a game. It's called Roy. Snap out of it. Come on.
Snap typically means the act of your two fingers making a popping sound, but in this context, it means to quickly change one's state of mind. Out of it refers to being disoriented or not fully aware of what's happening around you. Sometimes when I wake up from a nap, I'm totally out of it. So when Rick says snap out of it, he's telling Morty to stop acting strangely or to refocus his attention on what's important. This is a common saying you can use with your friends if they aren't paying attention, are distracted, or are acting a little funny. It's usually used lightheartedly. So definitely don't use this in a formal setting, like with your boss, because it can be taken offensively if it's not someone who's close to you. Instead, you can use excuse me or are you okay? In this scene, Morty is super confused because he actually thought he was Roy and lived a full life. He didn't realize it was just a video game.
Where's my wife?
Morty, you were just playing a game. It's called Roy. Snap out of it. Come on.
I'm Morty. You're Rick. Hey, you sold a gun to a guy that kills people!
Look at this. You beat cancer and then you went back to work at the carpet store? Boo!
Beat means to defeat someone in a game or other competitive situation, like I beat the video game. This is commonly confused with the verb won, which means to be successful in something. For instance, Argentina won the World Cup versus Argentina beat France in the World Cup. But the phrase beat cancer means to successfully overcome or fight off the disease. The opposite of this is to lose the battle with cancer. This is a euphemism for saying the person died of cancer. The word boo at the end is an informal way to express disapproval or disappointment. It's similar to how people might say thumbs down, or with slang, that's lame. In this context, it adds a humorous touch to the statement. In concerts or shows, if the audience doesn't like the performance, it's common for them to boo the performers off the stage. So Rick says this because choosing to go back to working at a carpet store is a boring and unimpressive choice after such a big victory like beating cancer. If you want to make sure you remember all these fun expressions and vocabulary words, make sure to download our free PDF review guide using the link in the description.
I'm Morty. You're Rick. Hey, you sold a gun to a guy that kills people!
Look at this. You beat cancer and then you went back to work at the carpet store? Boo!
Don't dodge the issue, Rick! Selling a gun to a hitman is the same as pulling the trigger!
Dodge is a verb that means to avoid. It can mean avoiding something physically, like there's a popular game in America called dodgeball, where you literally dodge or avoid getting hit by a ball. Or it can also refer to avoiding talking about something like an issue, which means a problem or concern. For instance, I have an issue or problem with my boss. So when Morty says, don't dodge the issue, he is asking Rick to face the situation instead of trying to avoid it. Another example is if someone isn't answering your questions, you could say, don't dodge my questions. A hitman is a person hired to kill someone, usually for money. And pulling the trigger refers to the action of firing a gun, so it's a way to describe the actual act of committing violence. So in this scene, Morty is trying to make Rick feel guilty or responsible for the consequences of his actions, even if he didn't directly commit the violent act.
Don't dodge the issue, Rick! Selling a gun to a hitman is the same as pulling the trigger!
It's also the same as doing nothing. If Crumbopulous Michael wants someone dead, there's not a lot anyone can do to stop him. That's why he does it for a living.
Does means to perform or carry out a task or action, like he does a lot of performances at the local theater. For a living is a phrase that implies that the action is done regularly to earn an income and support oneself. For instance, what do you do for a living? I'm a teacher. So this is just another way of asking someone what their profession is, similar to asking, what do you do? Or what's your profession? So here, Rick is saying the guy who he sold a gun to is a hitman. He gets paid to kill people. It's his job, which means he's really good at it, and he couldn't stop him even if he wanted to. So, as a result, there's practically no difference to selling the hitman a gun since he would have gotten one anyways.
It's also the same as doing nothing. If Crumbopulous Michael wants someone dead, there's not a lot anyone can do to stop him. That's why he does it for a living. Now excuse me, it's time to thrash your Roy score.
Thrash is a slang term that means to beat or defeat someone thoroughly, like I will thrash you in this soccer game. It's very similar to the slang word smash, like I'll smash you in this race. Score refers to the points or achievements gained in a game or competition. For example, in a basketball game, the score would be the number of points each team has. So when someone says they will thrash your score, they are confidently expressing that they will easily perform better than the other person and achieve a much better score. And that's what Rick is saying here. He is putting on the helmet so he can now play the virtual reality game of Roy's life and try to beat Morty's score. Now, let's test your knowledge and watch the clip without subtitles.
Oh, this place is the best. It's got beer, games, prizes, and you can never tell what time it is.
You sold a gun to a murderer so you could play video games?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you spend all day shuffling words around, you can make anything sound bad, Morty. Here, check this out.
Roy, what's wrong?
I had a nightmare. I was with an old man. He put a helmet on me.
It's just a fever. Get some sleep. I don't want you missing school on Monday.
I want you kids to look around you today and think about your future. Now is the time in your life when anything is possible.
Spiraling perfectly, it's going to be caught by Roy Parsons. Roy Parsons is at the 20. Now he's at the 10. Nothing can stop Roy the Rocket. Touchdown!
I just think it's time to get realistic. Have you talked to my father about the carpet store? Roy?
Had we caught it sooner... Well, hindsight is 20/20, Roy. What's important is that we move quickly.
I'm not ready to die.
You're not going to.
Yeah! Hey, thanks for the carpet, Roy.
Hey, Roy, you pull those Persian off-white shags for the clearance sale?
Whoa. Shit! Oh, what the hell? Whoa, where am I?
55 years. Not bad, Morty. You kind of wasted your 30s, though, with that whole bird-watching phase.
Where's my wife?
Morty, you were just playing a game. It's called Roy. Snap out of it. Come on.
I'm Morty. You're Rick. Hey, you sold a gun to a guy that kills people.
Look at this. You beat cancer and then you went back to work at the carpet store? Boo.
Don't dodge the issue, Rick. Selling a gun to a hitman is the same as pulling the trigger.
It's also the same as doing nothing. If Crumbopulous Michael wants someone dead, there's not a lot anyone can do to stop him. That's why he does it for a living. Now excuse me, it's time to thrash your Roy score.
Rick and Morty has a ton of philosophical topics, much like The Simpsons. Click here to watch a deep dive episode where Lisa and Bart break into a school and find something unexpected. I'll see you over there.